What?
Are you set up?
What about mic? Oh, did Scott give you the mic? Yeah, that should be good.
All right, is everybody ready? And we don't have it amplified, so yeah. Oh, everybody got quiet. Thank you so much. You're much better than my classes. Awesome. So this is Joe Fitzpatrick and Peter Esden, and this is running your own pick and place.
There are no speakers in here, but I am using a microphone because this is being recorded. Okay. But you don't have a microphone, so whatever you say probably won't be recorded. So heckle all you want. It won't be safe. Sorry. Thank you for choosing this place and picking this place to be right now. This is running your own pick and place and other core life choices. There's a star there because we're actually not going to go over many other core life choices. This is the only one we're going to go over is owning a pick and place and running a core place. Me, I'm Joe. Let me figure out if I can see this. There we go. Because I don't remember who I am. I'm an electrical engineer. I teach classes on hardware hacking and reverse engineering with kind of a strong security focus. And in doing that, I end up finding really good excuses to buy certain pieces of equipment. Last 5 years ago, it was PCB mills, and I had an excuse to buy PCB mills, so I could use them in producing circuit board design. And this time around, I decided to get a pick and place machine, because what's better than making your own PCBs that you can also populate them as well.
Hi, and I'm Piotr Zentensky. I am embedded systems engineer, like a broad weird term. But I founded OneBit2, like now it's almost a decade ago, Jesus. And we help open source projects for the most part to make the hardware that they need for the project. And now we also started maintaining some of those projects because people got bored with them. So like Blackmagic Probe is probably our flagship product that we do. It's a JTAG debugger programmer that you don't need extra software besides a GDB for, which I like and it seems a lot of people do. I also do the Icebreaker FPGA, which is FPGA dedicated for teaching and learning and using open source FPGA development tools. And then Glasgow, which I'm sure a lot of you are still waiting for. Yes, it's coming soon. And Bitmagic Logic Analyzer is another thing that they make. I do everything in KiCad, and I made the bad choices of having now 2 pick and place machines in my world.
Yeah, and I should also mention, I did Tiger, which is a FTDI-based I/O board. That was a power supply campaign for a few years ago that people still use. And it's orange. But questions. So show of hands. Do you have boards that need assembly? Okay. Are you tired of convenient, inexpensive, fast, quick turn assembly systems? Are you not tired enough because you're sleeping at night? Does your current project need another project to help you miss your deadline? Are you really good at rationalizing equipment purchases? Yes. Okay. So if you said that yes to any of these, raise your hand. If you wish you could have said yes to any of these, raise your hand. Okay. Listen more. This is why we're here. So what is a pick and place machine? It picks things up and places them. Specifically, we're talking about surface mount technology, pick and place machines for electronic components. There are big pick and place machines that do all sorts of things and build machines and equipment. But we're focused on circuit boards and surface mount components. The idea being you get a reel of components and have 10,000 resistors, and have a machine that's going to place all those resistors instead of having to sit there and do it manually. So what are the options? You could manually assemble it. I searched and found on Hackscripts.io. Alex assembling the SMT challenge, where you try and by hand solder a bunch of small components. You could do that for your project. That doesn't scale very well. If you have to build one board, perhaps it makes sense to do that. But if you have to do like 3 boards, suddenly it doesn't make sense. There are alternatives. So this is on JLC PCB, but there are others, PCB services, PCB and PCBWay, that you can go flip the switch on and do PCB assembly, and then you can try to load it in with free assembly for your PCB board. And you only get to use that coupon once per email address. And what I have found that can be really helpful with is when I'm doing prototypes or boards or anything, I have them go and all the passives on, all the resistors and capacitors that I know they have. It's really hard to screw them up because if you put all your resistors in backwards, it's a big deal. And then I would get the board and I would solder on the big chip, the USB connectors, the other stuff that I need. And that worked out really well for me, and it's fast too, like within a week. And it's all automated, so you just submit the files and they do it all for you. Sometimes they ask you questions because you made stupid mistakes. And if they don't ask you questions, you think your mistake is just so stupid they didn't even want to bug you about it. If you keep doing this, you might want to go and find like a more reputable place. Screaming Circuits is a place around here. There's what's the one? Advanced Circuits in Colorado. There are domestic companies that do a really good job. Macrofab is another one. They do a really good job of catering to small batch stuff. And they also really good at scaling. So if you want 10 boards, they can do that. If you want 100 boards, they can do that. If you want 10,000 boards, they can probably do that too. If not, they will do it.
So Screaming Circuits has like dedicated Milwaukee, whatever they're called. They upgrade you eventually. You get your own production line for your product.
So, but you're here because you want to know about poor life choices, not about the good choices. So how much is it going to cost you? Cheap. So there are actually a couple cheaper options. There are kits you can buy on AliExpress or eBay to build a couple of pick-and-place machines. They're essentially like 3D printer parts coupled together to move parts around. But this is the cheapest, like fully assembled, fully functional one that I have one over right here. And it actually does kind of work, which is a plus.
Love the color.
What?
Love the color.
Love the color.
SMT Nurture B5.
Oh, the color, yes. And then you can buy heaters as well. I was gonna say, I guess the contrast is a little off because that's a little more blue than that one. But anyway, blue and PNP. So I was talking about, how many of you need a project to get in the way of completing your actual project? Well, so running a pick-and-place machine is a project. Now, if you want a project to get in the way of that project, how about designing your own pick-and-place machine? So Steve Haas has an awesome series of YouTube videos where he's basically designed this machine from scratch. And this is the machine. It also has feeders as well. We'll talk about this in a minute. But basically, you can buy this machine now. It's, I think, a 6-week lead time, $2,000. It's 3D printed parts, extruded aluminum. You bolt it together, and you have a functional pick-and-place machine, which is pretty amazing because 5 years ago, that would be impossible. 10 years ago, it'd be unheard of for like 100 times the price. But yeah, there is an option for, and this is also open hardware, and it runs OpenPNP, which is interesting software solution to moving. A lot of people got really excited about these a few years ago, the Charmhide, CHMT36DA, there's a couple of different variations, because this was the first affordable pick-and-place machine that had up and down vision, right? It had a camera pointing up, so you could look at the parts before you place them, and the camera looking down so you can find the spot on the board where to put it. There were other inexpensive pick-and-place machines before this that didn't have cameras, and that means it didn't really work very well. But people still try to struggle and use them for very large components, and sometimes with success. But yeah, there are, what's the place? I don't know if they use them anymore. There's a place that basically has a dozen of these, and they managed to have a small batch assembly place using these Circuit City. Not Circuit City, the whole place. What? Cyber City. Okay. And then this is a new one, the Neoden YY1, which is kind of a step above these tier machines, there's other manufacturers that make this style, where you have basically all the feeders together in one thing, and the little head goes actually over and pulls the parts out and mix them up, as opposed to having an automated feeder that just spits the parts out and out the nozzle. So the Neogen YY1 is kind of, it's 2 nozzles, it's a little more expensive, but it's a commercial product with their own software. What's really interesting about the software is, you think about software and you think about software development, and there are hard problems and there are easy problems, right? And easy problems, in my mind, are a functional user interface, right? Easy problem should be easy to solve, right? What you get when you get some of these like low-end pick-and-place machines is they do a horrible job of the easy problem, which is having a functional user interface. But somehow they actually manage to get the computer vision and alignment stuff functional. You just have to figure out how to use it. So that's always kind of amazing. So you go to OpenPNP, which perhaps is a better user interface, but has some struggles with the computer vision side of things. Well, that's one of those things that's vastly improving over time.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go to a next step up in a way, or sideways in a way. So you can also look, if you are here in the US, you are very lucky because there's a huge second-hand market for machines, industrial machines. So
It's the market of all the people who have gotten out of the pick-and-place.
that's exactly right.
It's kind of like buying a used boat.
Buy a used boat, take on someone else's problem. So this is something that if you actually really decide to do this kind of stuff, that don't bother with the Chinese machines, get one of these used machines. Especially like Quad, is like you can get it probably even with feeders for $10,000. But you get a huge market of second-hand parts, a huge community of people that use them, know how to use them, know how to repair them. Plus, it's very simple on the inside. You can actually work on this thing. You can find replacement parts. You can work with this thing. With the Chinese machines, the problem is you buy it. If it works, you are lucky. If it doesn't work, you're on your own. Try finding replacement parts and fixing this thing. Or make the supplier convince them to give you replacement parts. Sometimes it becomes quite an issue. But yeah, so it is a step up. It's like basically the machine itself is around $10,000, feeders for it. And this is the funny thing with the more expensive machines. The biggest expense ends up being feeders, because these are precision devices with motors, electronics, sensors that have to work very accurately every time, millions of cycles. So they are actually quite expensive. It's like per feeder, it's like $2,500 can be if it's a big feeder, or like, or a bit less if these are like high commodity feeders. Then transport infrastructure. This thing weighs 800 pounds. You need the lift gate, but you can put it in your garage. It does fit. I tried and use that this way. And you still need what also advantage of the Chinese machines, they have everything built in. You need dry pressurized air. It has to be dry. You don't want any water in it or any oil in it. Then you need 220 power, which you can get here domestically, which is good. And maybe a vacuum pump if you want it to be quieter. You want to also have a quiet compressor. And space in your garage. So you have to be lucky enough to actually have a garage and not live in an apartment. Although I heard people putting this kind of stuff in their apartments.
Goodbye, security deposit.
Okay, so there is this step up from this. This is a program machine that CMs are buying these days, and they are putting in fully automated production lines. That is, you can get them around 150K, and infrastructure is like 20K. You need three-phase power for any modern machine. So if you are in a non-industrial area that already has three-phase power, it's like, yes, I'm specifically talking about the US here. It's like in Europe, it's easier. You can have three-phase power at home, but it might not be enough three-phase power. But here, there is a great solution to this: rotary converters. Ancient technology, just a rotating motor that generates the third leg. It sounds ancient and stupid, but it works. and solves the issue of power. You need a big supply of, you need a much bigger compressor. These things, if you don't have an option with a vacuum pump inside, you need 80 CFM of 90 PSI air. This is a lot of air. You can buy, actually for California Air, if you want a quiet compressor, their biggest model can supply that air. Tried it, works, until they finally installed the vacuum pump inside this thing. With the vacuum pump, it drops to like 10 CFM, which is much more manageable, and you can do this. But you still will need the air if you want the stencil printer, but that's a separate bad choice. Yeah, so what do you pay for software? Well, usually, so the machines come with software. You usually don't pay for the software. Even with the quad machines, yes, you get a license. It really depends on how far you want to push it. There are commercial products to automate and simplify the setup process. It usually is only necessary if you are actual CM, where you have dozens of projects a day, where you have to like crank through a lot of design files and prepare them and put them on the machine. This is when you have to pay for software. And that's also in like 100K range just for the software license, and then pay per seat and da. But usually you don't need that. Offline software programming, where you can sit at your desk and program that, that's usually also included for free. Feeders, yeah, so that really depends. With smaller machines, it's cheaper probably. You can talk to that maybe.
So you mentioned that some of the higher end feeders are like $2,500 each. That's like more than the low end pick and place machines, right? And you think about what pick and place machine units do is pick apart and place it. Pick it and place it. The feeder's job is to serve up the part to be placed. And when you think about a reel of resistors having 10,000 resistors in it, right? That means it has to work 10,000 times. And then you're gonna put a new roll in tomorrow, a new reel in the day after, a new reel in the day after. So like millions and millions and millions of cycles. So that you need to have something that's actually durable. So if you're looking for some of these low-end machines, they are not built using equipment that's designed for 1 million cycles. They're using stuff that's designed for 100,000 cycles or 10,000 cycles.
Yeah, and you have to add to this. It's like feeder is like quite an underappreciated feature of these machines. If you don't have a good enough feeder, it's like the pocket will not land in the same position every time. The machines usually pick up the parts blindly and then check their position on the nozzle. So if you have a small part and a small nozzle, the misalignment of the pocket just moving 1/10 of a millimeter is a lot. And it's like if, for example, the quad machines, they have the issue that the pockets float inside the feeder. So what I call with floating is you pick up 10 parts, and after 10 parts, the pocket will have moved inside the feeder because the back pressure of the tape and friction is pushing the pocket backwards. And every day you start assembly, the first few boards, the pocket will move and then eventually settle if you are continuously producing. So this is something on a handheld machine is not a thing. Maybe when you start at the beginning of the day, you use the vision of the machine, which also quad can do. You scan all the pockets of all the feeders, memorize that, and then you can run the whole day. The pocket will stay in the same position. It becomes bigger issue than you think.
Yeah, so you get what you pay for. You typically do not get what you pay for. Don't expect anything more than the bare minimum function on any of these things. So when you get a $2,500 machine, expect a $2,500 machine, or maybe a $1,000 machine that's priced at $2,300. Yeah, $2,500. If you're buying a $10,000 machine, expect a $5,000 machine that you pay an extra $5,000. Right.
Yeah, and then eventually, if you end up at the top end, it's like they will come to your place. You will get training for a full week, and they will teach you how to use the machine. They will support it. They will repair it. You will get free parts replacements for at least 3 years, if not longer. So you are sure this thing will work. And in case of Hanwha, I'm sure Yuki has the same thing. It's like they have 24-hour service. If it's something breaks down, they will be at your place to fix it within 24 hours.
So, what four choices has Joe made? So, my first foray was my Neogen 4, which I got used for a good deal. At least it would seem like a good deal until I realized how much time it was take me. What I like about this machine is you can't see out, but as opposed to kind of charm high grade machines that have a big shared feeder and have to manually polish, this has 4 separate heads, and so it has sort of decent feeders that will feed parts, and you can pick up 4 parts, camera, take a picture of 4 parts, and then place 4 parts. And then pick up 4 more parts, take a camera picture of 4 parts, and then place 4 parts. So what I had set this setup for is I put all the passive devices I frequently use on this. So when I want to go and put a board together, right, I know that I have like a bunch of resistors and common values, a bunch of capacitors that I can use regularly, a USB connector that I use almost all the time. So I can go and get all that stuff placed on the board, and then I can go and manually place the microcontroller that I'm trying to use or test, or the other like components that I'm trying to introduce to the board. So I fit this into my workflow pretty nicely. And so even if I was doing a one-off, it turned out to be a time saver for me because I had it set up that way. But I wanted to do this a little more portable because, again, I teach classes and I wanted to pick a place in Shannon to teach classes with. And so first I got the Lumen PNP, which I mentioned before. And I assembled it, and this is a great project. It's an fully open source design. It works great. If you have a small batch of things that you want to make, this is probably a good place to start. However, it's kind of like a glorified 3D printer, right? And I mean, that's how it gets to be what it is, right? It's based on a lot of the same controller boards and parts and rail systems that makes the 3D printer. But this thing is going to assemble some boards. It's a bit slower than the other machines. And so if you're putting one board together, that's fine. If you're doing 10 boards, it's going to start slowing you down. If you're doing 100 boards, then you're going to get frustrated with that. What I ended up doing is getting this one, the T2, which is that AliExpress fancy one, which one of the things I like about it is it's fully assembled. It's small, but it also is designed out of the box to work with OpenPNP, so I don't have to worry about crappy software. Well, I don't have to worry about crappy vendor software. And it's interesting because the difference between the Lumen and this one, like this one, I realized very quickly that if I'm going to use this in class, I need to have an enclosure for it because this is the kind of thing that's going to like cut your fingers off if you move it while you're not while you have it in the wrong spot. Whereas the Lumen is kind of more of a 3D printer. If you have your fingers in the wrong spot, you're going to not get a calibration. So it's a trade-off. Which one's better for you? Depends how much you like your fingers. Peter, what 4 choices have you made?
So my 4 choices are basically being at the wrong time at the wrong place, I think. So when you end up with something like this. So I got this quad pick and place machine. It's actually a refurbished machine by PPM. It's Massachusetts, in that area, they are there. And Go PPM sells these machines. They take, this is a design from the 80s. So this is a very old design of the machine. It's heavy as heck. It's all like steel tubing and like cast iron cable and whatnot, which makes it, for especially the price, really rigid and rugged and good choice. It has Windows computer built in, which bring your own with the Chinese machines is usually the case. It has the software on this. So why did I end up with this is it was 2013, 2014 when I started London Square. Like in the first year I spent on this because I didn't want to assemble. Well, assembling in China was much more complicated back then than it is now. Now you have something like JLC PCB and PCBWay and whatnot, where you can just submit the design files. It's so much easier. I would not have gotten this machine if these services existed back then. I didn't want to do it in China because I had bad experiences from previous job doing that in China and getting boards with capacitors placed for resistors and resistor placed for capacitors even though the files were correct, stuff like that. So basically, especially back then, you had to fly to China, go to the factory, make sure it is assembled right, and then you had a product. This is for bigger production and more complicated stuff still the case. It's like I really recommend go to Shenzhen, do it there if you are going that route. go to the factories, talk to the boss. That's how it is done correctly from that solution. So back then, I was assembling here in the US, and basically in half a year, I spent more money than the cost of the machine. And I was like, well, I'm actually interested in the pick and place stuff. And I had friends that supported me in this terrible choice. So I got this machine. We flew over there, we inspected the machine. I got 1 day training, which was very lucky. And then I came back, the machine got delivered, installed it. It took a few days to get all the infrastructure set up. So yeah, lots of tape on the floor, and a C64 monitor in the corner, as it should be. Yeah, tape, poor choices. So this is icebreaker assembly. That's completely fine. This is a nice big stack. So if you have boards with if there's like a trade-off, there's like a crossover point, like Icebreaker and Blackmagic Pro have few enough parts and big enough parts. It's 0402. It's like Shanghai might have problems with 0402s, but it's like this machine can place 0402s all day long, all night long, no problem. You have to know how the machine breathes, like with the pocket move, as I mentioned before, but it's fine. You can get it to work. Yeah, and it's eventually, after the Icebreaker, the Glasgow project came about. It has about as many parts on one board as the whole panel of the Icebreakers. And we, unfortunately, were very successful. So we had to make over 2,000 of them. And we had all the parts here in the US. And okay, and no parts there, money is draining. What do? We have all the parts here in the US. We would have to send everything to China, pay import taxes there, then bring it back again, pay again, or find someone to assemble here in the US. Basically, financially impossible unless we take out a loan to pay for it. So we were like, okay, I guess if we take a little bit bigger loan out, we can actually upgrade to a modern machine. There you go. That's a really big, expensive bad choice. And again, caused by circumstance and the moment in time and the situation that I was in. If there was no chip shortage and I could have ordered all the parts directly to the CM in China, I would not have done this. So today, probably I would not have done this. I would just work with the CM in China, maybe even took a ticket and flew to Shenzhen, and it wouldn't be a problem. But now, I have this toy that comes in a packaging that looks like a satellite. It's actually a moisture barrier bag, a full body. It's completely sealed all around because Hanwha, formerly Samsung, it's a Korean machine. It is actually shipped from Korea. So it has to go on a ship, and that's why it is sealed so nicely. This is a garage door, it's this opening. So this is how big this thing is. It's like, yeah, you can get it in, but you cannot really walk around it unless you have a 2 parking spot garage. So I actually had needed a bigger space than my actual garage. So there is a little bit of an upgrade, plus the compressor, as I mentioned before, and the rotary converter for power. So yeah, it at least comes with proper documentation. The cool thing about this, it comes with all wiring diagrams of the whole machine. Plus, all the parts in the machine, besides like very specific milled parts, is all off the shelf stuff. It's like Festo vacuum and pressure, like air handling stuff. If any of the solenoids break, you can just order them and replace them. I made like rail extensions, 3D printed them and attached them to this thing. I was surprised how easy it is actually to work with. The software side of things is a little bit less convenient because they want you to buy this super ultra expensive software, or like they work with that company that makes it, and it's like I'm working on reverse engineering the binary format for this machine so that I can do more stuff, but one day. For now, like CSV files is actually good enough. The programming of the machine is actually quite easy. But yeah, don't do it.
So I kind of have something I've said to many people many times. Like, if someone asks you if they should get married, or asks you if they should have kids, or now asks you if they should get a pick and place machine, the only right answer that you can give a friend is no. The only time you should ever do it is if you are sure enough and certain enough that you're going to go above and against the advice that everyone has told you otherwise, that you should go ahead and do it. So why not? It's more expensive. If you're saving money by getting it, you're not. You're wrong. It's not going to work that way. It takes up more of your valuable time. If you're short on time and you think this is going to save you time, you're wrong. It's not going to save you time. There are lots of hidden costs. You bought a pick and place machine, and now you need feeders, and now you need parts, and now suddenly it's like, oh, well, I need 10 resistors, but I might as well buy a reel of them because, you get what you pay for if you're lucky. You get what you pay for or something less than what you pay for. You're never going to get more than what you pay for. With a low-end machine, you're going to find out your rework time is greater than the pick and place time. So it takes 2 minutes for the thing to go and populate all the components on the board, and then you take it over and you have to touch this one, move this one, flip this one, fix that one, and you're doing manually more than what the pick and place machine spent to do. It still saves you. Yeah, depending on the price, and also that's still less time it would have been to manually place all those components. But you got to keep that in mind. And we are almost done. We started a little late, so we're going to finish a little late. And I know there's snack or refreshments or something coming up, so I want to be done too. Really, why would you want to do this? If you want to do anything that's outside of a standard build process, if you want to use weird components or things in different ways, or you want to start populating things upside down or some strange stuff like that. If you want to avoid back and forth shipping, like Peter mentioned, you ship stuff to China, pay tariffs on it, get it assembled, get it shipped back, pay tariffs again on it. That's going to be annoying. You don't want to be remotely debugging something that's out somewhere else, and you also don't want them to stop their high-end contract manufacturing manufacturing line while you go and debug one issue before they resume and fix everything, because it's going to cost more than before to just make them all and throw them out and try again. You don't have to go overseas to go fly and fix things. You can scale at the pace that you want to. You don't have to use this machine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you can budget it and make sense to use one and in small volumes, like I did with my Teardown machine, where I use it maybe 2 or 3 times a month, but it saves me 10 hours each time I use it. It could be worth it. You can small batch and prototype at your pace. You can do like a test and you assemble it and you test it and it doesn't work. You change the board design, get the new board, reassemble and do it very quickly. You can also make running design changes. As you're going, if you decide that one LED is too bright or one resistor is the wrong size, you can go and change this very easily without having to go through a changeover process.
And if you, again, do the wrong thing, you can get this kind of a reward. I'm not sure this is very visible, but it's like the machine, it's like it was now placing the connectors. It's the Hanwha, it's the expensive toy. But eventually you will see this is picking up parts and placing them. It's 6 at a time. It has 6 heads.
It's not sped up.
It's not sped up. This is the normal speed of the machine. It's so it used to take me on the quad basically to assemble. So let's say I wanted to assemble 100 boards. It took basically like a day from the morning till evening, and really feeding the machine non-stop. It's like takes 25 minutes per panel to assemble. This takes 3 minutes to assemble the whole panel, 15 boards. I used to have only 10 on this, and now it's 15 in like 3 minutes. It's pretty big reward for like a lot more money. But if you can justify it to yourself, or whatever your better partner or the company, then it's actually can be a benefit of being vertically integrated.
So if you don't believe us, I was actually trying to get this all up and running to be started today, but we'll have the pick and place machine out in the demo area now, but tomorrow we'll probably have it all set up so you can go in and do a little pick and place programming and set up the machine, place some components. The past 24 hours have given me plenty of material to put into this talk, but it has not given me a foolproof process for populating one of these boards. We've got this little pick and place patch, right? And you see this is the first one I assembled. I got one LED to light up. It's kind of like a claw game, you put your money in and it goes and it grabs things, and it's rigged against you. and it costs you a lot of money, and there's no guarantee, no matter how much money you pump into it, it's ever going to be successful. So really, it is just like a claw game. This one I actually had a few more. I had some blue LEDs and red, and like almost half of them are lit up, but some of them are even actually upside down. I'm not sure how that happens. Like, how did this machine can't flip the board?
So they have to get up.
But yeah, so we made more light chases, so you don't have to. I'm Joe, this is Peter. Feel free to ask us questions, but I think we're gonna mosey on to wherever these refreshments are. There's food?
Yeah.
Okay, there's food. I'm hungry. Yeah, and we'll be in a demo area with boards that you can assemble on that thing at some point in time. If you like paint and you like to.
We should probably go.
All right.
will have lunch time and we will start.
Hey, what's up? Okay. I'll come try to check in a minute. Bye. Where's the capture? Where the capture card is?
I did not. It wasn't. I didn't see it in there. And did it tag along? Yeah.
Capture card.
All right.
Oh, we have extra. Okay, are you recording? Can you get it going? I don't even know if there's a card in there. I go check in on the other one.
Yeah, the other room's fine. Dark's is finished. Just record that.
All right, now let's switch to something.
Okay, we got audio track.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I saw in the last presentation.
Maybe I should see better time now.
Yes. I should have got that.
Everything.
Space, right?
I think I'm sitting here, well, what's a spider?
What is the next one was playing? Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone for coming in.
This is talk by Andrew from Wave Up Lab. I'm going to introduce himself. They just launched the micro SDR, and pretty exciting stuff. Very small, very web-based, very easy. Take it away, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, yeah, my name is Andrew, and I'm the founder of the Wave Lab and one of the creators of USDR project. So, how many of you guys have experience with software-defined radio? Okay, a lot. So, my team and I have been working with DSP and SDR for quite a while, and we faced a lot of issues and problems with software-defined radio, and that knowledge gives us insight about how can we improve SDR overall and take it to the next level, user experience. So, so we decided to change general approach, in SDR industry, so in the workflow. So, since there's a lot of burdens and boundaries to get involved into the SDR, it's impossible for beginners to work with that, and we thought that it would be cool to bring this part of the tech enthusiast people to industry and let them easily prototype and learn from the SDR and make their projects, and therefore bring some new cool ideas. So we started from the hardware, and in terms of the hardware, we wanted to put all components on the smallest form factor as possible. So we picked M2 A plus E key 2230, which is industrial standard for that. And there's a variety of adapters we specifically built and designed for our board. So it's USBs, PCI Express, different keys for the M2 adapter, PCI Express developer board. So it's kind of a great tool to experiment, as well as a great variety of adapters that can facilitate embedded system. And one of the great thing that one of the main challenge was to put everything on a single side of the board. So once you decided to embed or create a system, you can embed it in any type of devices or any type of devices. So, and without any heat dissipation problem, right? So what else? Yeah, it took us 300 revision to get this done. It was like a rough ride, but we were able to make it happen without sacrificing functionality and break the bank. So next, in terms of the components, we have so-called general standard for the software-defined radio. So we picked line microsystem LMS 6002, and as a PGA, AMD Xilinx PGA, which is common standard for the session board with great functionality and great performance. Another issue was and problem that we solved. We wanted to make this board as low as possible in terms of price, so to facilitate independent developers. So it took us pretty long time to make it available for $300, which is, I think, it's great for such a group set. But the beauty of the SDR lies in how you can control it. And you can control through the web. Because I remember myself when I first time experiencing the setting up SDRs, it was that easy. I mean, it took me almost 2 days and tackled stuff with the libraries, dependencies, software capabilities, and stuff like that. So even the Sergey, who's my friend and co-founder of the Wave Lab, he helped me out, and even for him, he's a pretty experienced and tech-savvy guy. Took him longer than I expected. So with all that being said, we thought, how can we create SDR, and not even how, and what could be there for to facilitate others, people, and users in terms of like workflow. And we decided to create a platform with like easy access without so the platform itself makes the workflow for ECR feasible and accessible and like everything like that. So yeah. Surfing the web, we run into web USB technology. So and modern browsers no longer slow anymore, and we thought it would be cool to use this technology, and it's always implemented in Chrome browser. So it's gives you an ability in direct communication between your hardware and browser. So, and we started to incorporate our like support libraries, and throughout that, we thought it might be cool to develop some basic application for users like spectrum analyzer, PMR, coder, and stuff like that, and visual tools. And right after we like finished that, one of our friends said, like, why don't you guys create something big, like not just send them in the browser? And since we had a telecom background, we thought, okay, seems like we must have it because we have to prove it. And it was rough, right? Because we took Osmocom stack, and our estimation was about like 2 weeks became 2 months of having and putting everything in a cloud. Let's start with the demo, right? Because here's the USDR with the USB adapter and antennas, and it's pretty simple for the workflow. You just plug it in, boom, come on. Yeah, you see. So it's being detected, and we just click network. Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. Okay, we choose WebSDR, and here's the configuration. It's a basic base station configuration with different variety of RFCN channels. So, and we click play, and right now, Osmocom log is coming up. I have 2 old phones over here, but so we'll start registering right away. Yeah, you see? So one of the, basically 2 phones already registered. I don't know if you want to check, we can talk with you. It's supposed to be.
Hey, how's your talk going?
It's not going. Wait. Come on. Oh, wait. Too far from that. Yeah. That's its hello. Oh, yeah, don't worry. We were far from the antennas because it's not like industrial setup for the call. So yeah, this is how it works now. Anyone can just plug a USDR device with the USB adapter into a laptop, and this is how you can describe such a closed and proprietary industry like a telecom. So you can imagine, it's easy now. So along with that, we have a bunch of application in our platform. It's what's monitor. It's pretty much the same flow. So we picking up our device and set the frequency, and set the play. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention it's supposed to be reloaded. Yeah, it's undergone, it's under development, so guys.
It's just the software side.
Right. It's just. So, we need patience. Yeah, right there. So, and you can, here's the different controllers. Real-time frequency spectrum and waterfall. You can change frequency, bandwidth, gain, if you would like. So, also the great feature of our platform is that you can share devices. So we create, since it's everything happening in the browser, we can share like your data, your streams.
Is this all being done locally, or is it doing callbacks as well to your server?
For the spectrum,
Yeah.
it done locally.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's done in the browser.
So you can put it like in an electron container or something like that?
Yeah. So, like you can share device. So in this example, I just want to show you how it works. Pretty much the same. You pick the source, and here's your device stream link. You can just copy it and send it to your friend, and the friend load into the platform and get a signal from like anywhere. And my friend, he's in Georgia right now, Sergey, and he's running a radio station at the moment. And he said, "Okay, just show the guys like how you can listen to the local radio station during the talk." And instead of a device, seems like. Yeah, from receiver. Yeah, right there. So we picked the listening. It's yeah. I already configured his link into our platform, so don't want to steal your time. And it should be. So it's coming like straight directly from the DLC. Also, the platform gives you the ability to highlight specific area, and it's getting the signal like right away. Great song though. Also, what else? What?
Is that streaming the raw ADC?
What?
Is that streaming the raw ADC data, or does it do any pre-processing before it passes?
To be honest, I don't know.
I mean, you're getting the IQ data, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Certainly getting the IQ data like from the same device over Georgia in Georgia. So you just set it up and just give me the link. So the device is like receiving the signal from the local station and just over the WebSocket, I'm getting the same signal here. Also, we implemented storage where you can store your recordings, so which is like a great feature, and you can store it, not even like you can upload that, store that, and also you can take shareable like recordings from your like, friends and put it over there. And let's say you want to signal analyzer, you just click the signal analyzer and pick in from the cloud or from the shared, and you pick in your like recording, and here's the here's the signal of a mouse, Bluetooth or wireless mouse, and you can see here's the different parameters you can change, like modulation. You can highlight needed piece of the frame. You can change signal view to analog or demodulated. where the upper side is a 1 and the lower side is a 0. Yeah, this is our platform. And
Can you save those settings to share with others as well?
say again?
Can you save the settings, the sidebar settings, can you save those as presets?
Oh yeah, sure. We just like we keep working on that. So yeah, basically there will be you will be able to save settings and other stuff like that. So we don't need to replicate any time you want to do something. So I forgot to mention. So since we've been using WebAssembly, you can write code in C, C++, C#, and like port into the web platform. So basically, I don't know, maybe like later we will be able to open the platform so you can like, port your own application into the platform and use it. And also want to mention, since it doesn't like limit yourself to platform and web browser, so you can all the time use legacy software like Asmacom, Radio, and many stuff like that. So it's a great feature. So if you're a legacy guy and you don't want to work with the web platform, feel free to use it with your software. What else? And yeah, trusted wireless. And what I want to say? It's pretty much. Yeah, we've seen there's like a few projects that getting attention from the community regarding trusted devices, and we think that USDR can be the next trusted wireless module thing for this project. So it could be like fully 100% trusted devices. So and as Josh mentioned, like in the beginning, we just started the crowdfunding at the crowd supply. You just go type it in the search bar USDR, and there will be more information about the tech stack, some showcases, some demos as well, and there's a lot of interesting things coming up in the pipeline. So thank you so much. If you have a question, you may ask.
Guys, is there a plan to do bidirectional streaming so you could use your buddies Georgia's hardware from here?
Like, can you control this SD card?
Yeah, could I stream, like, let's say I installed that or was running that on my phone.
Yeah.
Could I transmit through his hardware in Georgia?
Yeah.
Using that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the share application. So you can either send the signal or receive the signal. So through the website.
Andrew will be around all weekend.
Yeah, sure. I'll be here like till
Down the table.
so you can just stop by and I can show you more with the platform.
Nice. Can we get the non-public version?
Non-public version.
Yeah, since I can't use it. I want to use it.
It will be available once we complete the crowdfunding and ship our orders, and then you can use it. Yeah, it takes time. Unfortunately, it's not available for public at this moment. But all you need is just to get a USDR and build your own application.
What's the unit cost?
It's at $300 for the board itself, and the adapters, like USB adapters, like probably $15. It's very cool. Like they also cheap. So if you want to.
I think one of the interesting things about this also is the Line Microsystems, the maker of LMS 602.
Yeah.
Is very supportive of the project.
Yeah, sure.
Sees this as a future product.
Because if you're familiar with the Line USDR, Line Micro, they've done a pretty like amazing job with their USDRs.
That's the RF chip you're using upstairs, right?
Yes, LMS 6.0.2. LMS 2, yeah. 0.2, right. Which is a little bit confused.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. So, yeah, yeah, I'll be in the hallway. Just stop by and ask any questions and show you more.
Thank you. Next up in this room is Futel, storage Futel. Carl's gonna in a second. And right now, I think we're in the middle of a micromodes talk in 2:30. Anyone interested in, I forgot to put it on the schedule, but lightning talks, kind of show and tell style lightning talks. So I'm gonna put that on the schedule for, let's see, we did, I think starting at 4:30. So that will be in this room here. Okay, is Carl up here? Not yet. Okay, I'll go Carl. Over.
I'm here to talk about Ztel. And this talk, well, Qtel is a public, a combination of a public service and an art project. It has tech underpinnings, but the main thing about it is that it's urban and public. It's something that's out there in the public. But most importantly for this talk, I want to talk about our motivations for operating this project and how we try and make it sustainable. So the point of this talk is to talk about a creative technical project and how those motivations and how those strategies might be helpful for other people's projects. Because it is a creative project. It's not just it's not so much a product that that's going to give us anything. It's not going to sell. You know, there's no money in free phone calls. So well, that's what we are. What we do is we deploy payphones, which are free to use. And a lot of people complain to me about why do we call them payphones, and I tell them I will make you pay if you talk to me about that. But it's free calls and then free other services as well and other activities you can do on the phones. But that's it. We plunk these payphones out in the street. We've been running it since 2014. It's myself and several other volunteers. We have, I think, 12 free public payphones right now. They're all in sidewalks and alleys and accessible from the public. It's, I don't know how many, the number of volunteers always changes. We have a core team of people and then other people with various skills who come in when they're needed. So it's about 9 in Portland right now, and then we have one in Detroit, one in Ypsilanti, Michigan, one in Washington, and this one, these are all in Portland, let's see. This one's the Ypsilanti one, that's the Detroit one. And then we also offer free phone service to the Social Justice Action Center and Right to Dream 2 in Portland, which is just, basically contacted them and said, you want free phone calls, you want free phone service. And there's a bar phone at Upright Brewing in Portland, so they're public things, but I'll put a phone in places where you have to, where the bartender has to let you in and stuff like that. But everyone can walk up to these phones at any time and use them for free. This is a 2021 map. So this is an old map, but anyway, yeah, a lot of phones. And then there's other stuff to kind of support the project. We have an incoming line. You can access some features from the incoming line. And then there's other really outreach parts of the project. We publish a zine. We have various handbooks for people who work on the project and other media too. We have a lot of audio art, so that can go on the web too. Website, blog, stuff like that. And then whatever other related programs we need to run it. When COVID hit, we started a sanitation program, which sanitizes the phones, but then almost as important, would leave a record that they had been sanitized so people could see that that had happened. And we also put hand washing stations around next to the phone so you can wash your hands before or after, or just whenever. So I really like that project. So what we are is an urban furniture. That's our mission, is to put out urban furniture, but it's centered around the phones. So yeah, phones. We stick these phones out here, and they offer phone calls. They offer everything is free right now that you can use. You can call most of North America. You can call into the phones and ring them. And like I said, the incoming line too. You can set up voicemail. There's a voice conference you can use. There's directories that you can access of interesting and useful numbers. Call the mayor. There's a directory of social service organizations, things that people might want to use, but then there's directories of fun things. If I find out about an audio art project on the phone, I'll put it in there. Like there was a dream survey that got a lot of attention at one point. There's a lot of really actually interesting phone art out there that I always love to link to when I find it. Call the mayor. You can call. Right now, you can call a random concentration camp in North America. You can call. There's certain people you can call that are interesting to talk to, and there's audio art, like I said, interactive things you can do. If you go to our installations in the hallway right now, that's an example of one type of thing like that. You need more than one person on the phones at once to use that. Otherwise, it's not very fun. And operators. We have live operators. I say that if you don't have someone to talk to, we can provide a person that you can talk to. And most people use the operators for straightforward things to use the phone. They ask her to find a number, or they ask to find a location of something like a social service organization, Blanchett House, Right Stream, whatever. A lot of it is just straightforward. They need something for their lives. But if you amuse the operator will talk to you about whatever he wants. So people do. People talk about all sorts of things. I personally, some people just like to call up, like, yo, look, what's this? And I hang up on those people, But if they want to talk to a human, I'll be a human to talk to them. Even if they're tweaked out, even if they're not polite, that's not what's important for a lot of things. The important thing is that we have a human that people can talk to, and usually we can help them. The technical stuff behind it is not that interesting. What's interesting is that we are just like a shoestring organization and we keep it running. And what's important is that we keep it robust and keep it running. And when we get hacked, we can put it back up. And when they go down, we can hopefully find out quickly and fix the problem. But the main thing is that when something happens, we can stand it up again quickly. And so the ops is the interesting part to me, because I've always been a software guy and not an ops guy, and I always thought the ops people were really cool. So it's fun to not know that stuff and jump in and get it done. But what is interesting for me is that it's all, like most of the hardware we use, like we are the last step for the hardware before it turns into the smelter and turns into toxic waste. So I really like running on salvage, running on the stuff that is only there. Like now it's just poison. It used to be useful, but it's time for its obsolescence. It was made by evil people that didn't care. Once they made their money, they didn't care what would happen. So we're one last stop before this stuff goes to the smelter. And it's funded. I mean, the other important thing about how it's running is how it's funded. And it's funded almost completely by grants. Grants, we have Patreon, we get donations, but it's all grants. It's all me hustling up grants, which is a big part of the job, really, is getting funding. I'm not really good at it, and I hate it. So it's but that's that's what we do. We get people to divert organizational money to us. RAC is a big sponsor of us because I keep on bugging them for grants. And we are a 501c3 because we have a physical sponsor, Control H, Portland Hackerspace. So that's really essential to keeping it running. So there are all these organizational administration aspects to keep the machine going. But what is interesting about this, not so much how we run it, but why we run it. That's really what I have always wanted to try and explain to people, because I think that's the important part for people to hear, because you all have projects too. You all have ideas or want to do things, and I think it's one thing that doesn't really get talked about is how to turn that into projects that are sustainable and interesting and fun and worthwhile. But when talking to hacker types, when talking to tech types, that's what I think is interesting to talk about. So our motivation was because we're hackers, we like to do stuff like that. We like projects, and if you can do it, you kind of have to do it. It's an obsession in a lot of ways to exercise that. And we're also creative people, so there's a lot of creative aspects to this. And as creators, which a lot of you or maybe all of you are, you have to exercise that. You have to put it out. You have to not only just keep trying stuff, which may or may not be stupid, but you have to put it out there and get it interacting with other people, because there's a lot of creative people that don't go anywhere, and there's a lot of creative people that do go somewhere, and the people that do go somewhere, all of them are among the set that tried again and put it out there and failed and stuff like that. So it's just a part of that. These are our projects for that. And I personally always need to have a project going. If I don't have a project going, I get very sad. So they don't, a lot of them are stupid, a lot of them are not really worth my time, and I never can find out until it's too late. So anyway, this is one of those iterations, It keeps me alive, really. I thought that would change when I had kids. I thought I would have a bigger project than I do, but it doesn't replace. So we want to use our powers for good. We want to, we all have skills and abilities which are not unique, but they are, not everyone has them. Almost everyone has some skill somewhere, and these are ours. And we want to use them in a way that's at least partly non-cynical and different from the day job, because I've had some real killer jobs that are really interesting, really fun, challenging, and even, morally good. I felt that they were helping humanity by them existing, but at the end of the day, the reason I was working is to make some investment money. So it's good to do something that's at least partly non-cynical. And then another reason is we get to do things that we might not otherwise be able to do. I never ripped off a payphone until we started doing this project. I've done a lot of hardware stuff, a lot of physical stuff, but I've never, and telephony stuff, that I've never just working on this got me to doing that. So it's good for us to run this project. And then it's a creative project. There's a lot of creative stuff that goes into there. This is some copy that's on the phones. We have all this different copy on the phones, and no one reads this stuff except for people. I've read every little informational card I've ever seen in a payphone because I'm kind of spurgy that way. So no one reads this stuff, but it's fun to put it out there for the few people that do read it, and when they do discover it, it's something for them. And I think it's subversive to put a payphone out there, to put these out there in plain sight, and have them they're hidden, but they're not hidden. They're on your face. But the fact of what they are is not obvious until you do. Those are the reasons. Those are our motivations for doing this project. And the next question, I think, the next important question is how do we apply those motivations to turn them into a project? We thought of things we wanted to do, and both me, the other founders, and the people who were continuing to work on it, we thought of things we wanted to do, and then we thought of how we could, or rather, we thought of aspects we wanted to promote, motivations we had, and then the next question is how do you turn those into actions? How do you turn those motivations into a project, into something to make or do, a process or an object or something? And how I applied it, the impetus for me at the beginning was just looking outside and seeing something that people might need. I lived on a shopping cart track. I lived on a street that got a lot of shopping cart traffic. It was on the way to what was at the time the biggest shanty town in the United States. So I don't know, today who knows, but this was in 2014. So in Portland, and I saw these people going around, and I thought, I wonder if people would want to use a free phone. I wonder if that would be something that's helpful for people. And because when people hear about this project, they say everyone has a phone, and it's true, everyone has a phone, except for those people that haven't been able to keep their phones. People haven't been able to hold on to their phones or pay their bills or whatever. So, and then there's the people that want to make prank phone calls. There's the people who have dropped their phone. I don't know. So I was wondering if that would be something that people would use. And then the next big question was thinking about what would have impact. What would be an impactful way to apply these motivations? And for us, it's phones with a public presence. I think of it as having radical accessibility because anyone can walk up and use these phones if you can hear them. You don't need an app, you don't need a device, you don't need to be part of a social network, you don't need an identity, you don't need to identify yourself at all using these phones. So it's very accessible, and I think that lets us reach, for the creative parts of it, we get to reach audience and get participants that most public artists would never, be able to do. It's kind of like a medicine show, except the reverse. The phone is the draw, and then we get to keep them in if they want to keep using the phone for some other reason. And then also, what is fun is very important. One slide. So it's also important to think about what's fun because volunteers for a project that isn't going to make a lot of money, volunteers need to be attracted and kept, including myself. Burnout is real. I have responsibilities and stuff too, so like we all do, so it has to be fun to do. And it also has to be affordable, because at the end of the day, I am the funder of last resort. You know, if I can't scrounge enough money, then I'm the one paying the bills. And also, the fundraising is not the fun part of it. So it has to be something that we can do within our means of doing it. And that's, that gives us freedom. We can leave these phones out on the street for people to abuse. And that gives us the freedom to do this project, the fact that it is affordable. So those are the criteria for applying our motivations into action. But those, I mean, we didn't think of those in order. You know, we were like, okay, here's a checklist. What's going to do it? You know, some of those are even after the fact. Maybe not even like conscious thoughts until after the fact. But those are the important ways to apply that motivation, I think. And then the final thing really is how to keep it sustainable, how to keep the project going, because there's nothing wrong with a one-off project or a short project, but I like that this is a long-term project with a community, and you know, people talk about it and people know about it. And we have repeat users of the funds, so I like that. And so it has to be kept sustainable in the face of adversity, because when you put, you know, we have many enemies. When you put a fund out in the street, people will wreck it. So Connie and Raymond Marble did not have a plan. Their plan collapsed in the face of adversity. You have to do something that can keep going. If you want it to keep going, you have to be ready to do that. Like I said, there's a lot of labor going into there. That's the big thing. A lot of labor goes into the project. We need volunteers and funding, and we need me, the director of Teardown. That's the title, because I gave it to myself. And we need someone like to be me to do the coordinating, do the organizing and stuff like that. So it's got to be, like I said, fun and interesting. We have to use our skills. But it has to be rewarding for us to do too. We have to see what we're doing, see that it gets used. So let's see. This one was a crowbar of some kind. You can see the coin slot was wedged in there. But the guy had a rock. The guy who did this, like, messed up his hands doing it. It's really sad. So, you know, there's for a crazy project, there's a lot of failure that happens. You know, you have to make it sustainable in the face of that failure. So it has to be rewarding for the volunteers. And one way it's rewarding is we metric it. We see how it's being used, and we see that people are using it, and see how they're using it. What features are used more than others. Like I said, that's how I know that phone calls are the big thing too. But then I can see what other parts of the menus people get to and stuff like that. You know, I put the first phone out. I didn't do any copy on it at all. It didn't say detail. It just had all the original payphone stuff. I just put it there and I let people discover it. You know, it took about 2 weeks and people started really using it just from you know, running into it and stuff like that. So that was my first indicator that it was being used. And now we have to actually be able to see events and stuff like that. And it has to be, so we have to see that we're doing something good, that it's actually happening. But then, the volunteers have to be appreciated too, with tokens and stuff like that. You know, there's no money in it, but they have to get something. It might be a token. You know, like we have a party with a bar tab once a year. We used to, you know, stuff like that. So you just see that you feel good about it. And also, it's important to have a presence. I think to have an organization, because that lets us toot our horns. That lets us brag. You know, lets us be proud of what we're doing, which, especially in the technical fields, we all know people who are who brag, and that's the most important thing is their ego. It's not the project itself, but the fact that they are talking about themselves and their project, and nobody likes that kind of person. So because of that, I tend to have a backlash against it, and not want to talk myself up because of something. But it's important to be able to feel good about what you're doing and talk about it, and get ideas from other people too, and be able to point to it and point to something you're a part of. So I think that's an important part about it, is to be able to point to a project and show what you're doing and have an organization around it. Whether that, even if it's just you, even if it's just like, how they put logos on things now, that's the whole reason for a logo. That's the whole reason for a title or something like that. All right, I rushed through this because of our AV time, but that was a little AV fun that we had in the beginning. But that's what I wanted to talk about, is the aspects of the project, the motivations, and what make those actually work. Because I never can tell if I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing something positive, but is it what I should be doing? Is there something better for me to be doing? So I hope this was interesting in hearing a way to kind of evaluate those motivations and evaluate those actions, and because that's what we're doing is iterating over projects over and over again. So I hope this was an interesting talk and thinking about those ideas. That's it.
Room. So we're gonna have lightning talks in a little bit, but because we had some problems with AV and because I love this project and I love that I found out about it because I ran into it with cell phone in my neighborhood because I know Carl. I'd like to give a little bit of time for Q&A and discussion, and then we'll break into lightning talks. But right now there is an open source oscilloscope talk in 2:30 just down the hall. So if you want to get up and move around, fine. Give us 1 minute and I think we'll have to continue.
Yeah.
Great. I'm just going to go and announce the lightning concept. Oh, you did? Okay, I'll be right back.
Thanks, man. I really enjoyed it. I was curious, I know